certainly that would be involved with witchcraft. And I want to ask you just about witchcraft. And then we have people that tell us, oh, I practice witchcraft, but I'm a white witch. Why? I don't know. I don't get it. So could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, we believe whether you're a white witch or a black witch, you're drawing on demonic powers. Although it does underscore the fact that people can be fooled in that area. They can think as a white witch or turning to a white witch that this is benign. I like what John of the Cross used to say, who was an expert in this area. There's only two real powers. Human beings don't have these powers. There's supernatural phenomena and there's preternatural or diabolic phenomena. The term paranormal is a modern term to try to explain these phenomena that past eras, certainly in the Christian orbit, would have said are either paranormal, are either preternatural, that is diabolic, or supernatural.
Okay, what about, you see, you bring up John of the Cross, and you know, folks, John of the Cross is a great mystical writer, I think 15th century, a great friend of Teresa of Avila, and he wrote fantastic works, The Dark Night of the Soul, The Spiritual Canticle. He was oppressed too, wasn't he? Along with some other great saints like John Vianney, Don Bosco.
John Vianney is a perfect example of a very holy man who was also attacked by evil spirits. Some people don't use the word oppressed, but in effect, the phenomena are often the same. Although they often react to the attack in a very different way. They're not petrified, they're not feeling immobilized, they're not in great confusion and doubt. They're just being punished because they're such holy people. And
what happened to them?
They often face it with a certain amount of equanimity.
But what happened to them? What did the oppression, the evil one, do to a John Vianney?
Well, John Vianney was attacked physically.
What happened?
All kinds of things happened in his rectory. You talked about infestation. There were demonic manifestations, appearances. At one point, his bed was set on fire. And he dealt with all this with a certain peace of mind because he knew what he was dealing with, and he knew that, you know, God would protect him and not allow the demon to truly ruin his spiritual ministry. Most people who get attacked by evil spirits are not in that category, although that can happen. They're in the category of being, you know, upset and confused and feel, usually rightly, that they've done something consciously or unconsciously to invite the spirit in.
Would it be true to say somebody like John Vianney, and I'm told that St. John Bosco had the same problems with, we call it oppression or infestation. Doctor, just talk about infestation a little bit, and then we'll see, you know, what effect it had on, I guess these saints were just too good. Satan couldn't stand them.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. You know, the gospel passage of Jesus about the mediocre, Satan sometimes leaves the mediocre alone because he's happy that they're lukewarm in their faith or drifting away from the faith. But if someone is truly holy and bringing other souls to Christ, they're particularly hated by the demonic world, and they're often particularly singled out, despite the fact that, as St. Teresa of Avila, whom you mentioned, enunciated, that in some ways evil spirits are more afraid of the very saintly person than we need to be afraid of them.
Well, I guess I have nothing to worry about.
We don't really need to be afraid of evil spirits.
I have nothing to worry about. I'm not holy enough for them to care about me. But you said something which in the book, you said the corruption of the best is the worst. You said it in Latin. And so, yeah, the devil, folks, wants to go after really good people. Why? Because like the doctor says, he already has the mediocre. The ones that are lost, he already has them in their camp. It's the good people that the devil wants to go after. But doctor, I remember, reading that they were attacked even bodily, scratches and black and blues. Is that true?
Yeah, that goes for all varieties of oppression, whether people were involved in the occult and sinful behavior or whether people are very holy. They can be attacked either physically or, strangely enough, and this is where, psychiatric help is often particularly important in discerning. People can also be attacked by oppressions in what we call an internal oppression, where they're fed certain images and given, say, false revelations and stuff. That is another type of oppression. So oppression can be what the Italians call vexation, where the individual is scratched, choked, feeling of being pummeled physically, but also the cognitive processes can sometimes be interfered with, where the person will have distorted images and even false messages. And again, that's where you have to make a distinction between that and, say, hallucinatory experiences of a mentally ill person.
Now, an exorcism is not usually a one-time event, is it? It can go on for many sessions. Could you talk about that? Why it goes on for so many sessions, and when and what happens when the person is finally released of these evil spirits, from these evil spirits?
Well, a lot of people have the sort of simplistic Hollywood sensationalist version of an exorcism, which is often presented as if the priest is a witch doctor and you say the magic mumbo jumbo and the demon leaves. It's more complicated than that, because most experienced exorcists will say this is a pastoral ministry. I am saying the prayers of the church and united with the prayers of the church in an exorcism to help liberate the person from the evil spirit. And that's important. And it's often an integral, critical part of the process. But the person also has to work at it. The person has to be encouraged to fight it themselves, to renounce their past sins, if that was a factor, as it often is, and to practice spiritual activities that will draw them closer to Christ. In a way, they have to draw closer to Christ as part of the whole process of liberation. Now, I have been to exorcisms that have worked in one exorcism. More often, it takes at least a few over several months. Sometimes, though, it can take years, by God's mysterious purposes being worked out in some other way. And sometimes people are never delivered. Example, the woman I mentioned before, this high priestess, she never really renounced her involvement with the cult. Not surprisingly, she was never delivered. She never really turned to Christ.
But she came to you. But why did she come?
Well, she was told, she knew she was possessed. She was a bright woman. She knew she was possessed. She had all kinds of remarkable psychic abilities because she was a Satan worshiper. And she also didn't want to give up her psychic abilities that she knew were from Satan. She also didn't want to leave the cult. She had been a member of the cult for years. This was kind of her pseudo family. And she was also afraid that the cult would retaliate against her if she left. So she was kind of doing this on the quiet. So she was a very ambivalent, somewhat tortured mentally person as well, because she was a little bit betwixt and between. She didn't know whether she was really committed to leaving the cult or whether it was worth it. So there's no question she was possessed. And in many ways, she had invited Satan in, or at least demons. But she never renounced her practices. she didn't turn to Christ, even though she had been baptized a Catholic as a kid. And so she was never delivered. And that can happen.
When the devil, his minions, the evil spirits, exit a person, does the exorcist know that they have exited? Is there some kind of a scream? Is there a peace that comes over the person? Is there an announcement? How does that happen? How do you know when?
It's a good question. It's not a question that has a simple answer because cases tend to be different. A lot of times it is sort of quietly happens. And after, stormy exorcisms or clear manifestations outside of the exorcisms, the person will emerge from the final exorcism, if that's the case, with a great sense of peace and with an awareness themselves that, they'll say, Father, it seems to be gone. Now, sometimes they're mistaken, but a lot of times they get that sense, and the people, including the exorcists, get that sense, and it turns out to be the case. Other times people have reported things like a loud noise, a thunderclap, screaming, etc. So there are a few sometimes dramatic signs. And most of the exorcisms I've seen, it's been sort of a quiet understanding that the person is just visibly and reports themselves as in peace. And then you follow up and make sure that that's the case. But that often is the case about how a deliverance is finally accomplished.
Okay, we talk about an exorcism. We talked about it as an official ritual of the church. Okay, and certain priests are trained. They have the ritual, get the bishop's permission, go through all the procedures of having a medical evaluation. You might even have an attorney sign off on it. Would you need an attorney at times to say that this person is
in America,
going of their own free will?
We got so many lawyers that in America, the church has been burnt on things legally, and so they often make that the case. Depends on the country. Depends on country to country.
Okay. Now, we talked about people. In your book, you also mentioned something about haunted places. Could you talk about, you call about a haunted house or a haunted place? Could you talk about that?
Well, here you get into the third category of what we call extraordinary demonic attacks. I mean, there are ordinary demonic attacks. We're all subject to temptation, although human beings seem to have a pretty good ability on their own to do nasty things, even without temptation, we presume. But the three extraordinary attacks of the demons are possessions, oppressions, and what is called, you mentioned the word before, infestations. Infestations implies that the demon is attacking or manifesting itself not directly on the individual person, but on the place or the locale. I would put attacks on animals in the same category.
So you have seen that they say, well, we found in the area, we found some animals decapitated. That's a sign of devil worship or
well, it could be.
occult.
Yeah, I mean, obviously humans are doing that. That's not being done directly by a demon, but that's the kind of thing, different pagan practices, sacrificing animals, that sort of thing, which, the ancient Hebrews also did. But we find in the modern times most of that sort of thing associated with a type of occult practice.
Mm-hmm. But the haunted house idea, we've had people talk about, my house is haunted, or, I see a ghost pass through my house. Ghosts. Well, we find in the Bible that, the ghost, once again, the ghost that the witch of Endor conjures up for Saul. We find ghosts even in Hamlet and Shakespeare. What about ghosts?
Well, there have been Orthodox theologians who've had different theories about that. The alternative hypothesis is that somehow this is like a dead soul, presumably a damned soul who is hanging around. Most of us who have a lot of experience in this area feel that it's a demon pretending to be a deceased person. All throughout history, demons have possessed people, and sometimes they have pretended to be gods or goddesses or other types of intermediate spirits, in Muslim countries, jinn, but they've also pretended to be dead souls. So, you'll see in some exorcisms, the person will say, well, I'm Judas Iscariot. We think, most of us in this field, in this ministry, think that those are all lies, that they're not dead souls, they're evil spirits. And we think probably that's the case with ghosts as well. Demons, evil spirits, seem to be able to appear in a remarkable variety of ways. And most of us Catholics involved in this think that ghosts are not dead souls, which is an hypothesis that even some Orthodox writers over the centuries believed, but that they are evil spirits pretending to be dead souls. I mean, they're clearly spirits. They're clearly harassing and causing fright and evil. So they are a type of evil spirit, even if you were to think it was a deceased damn soul or something.
As you can imagine, producing this wonderful program, Action for Life, it costs a great deal of money. We're going to need your help. So if you would like to donate to keep this good news program on the air, please go to your computer, your cell phone, actionforlife.net. Thought for the day. Our country is going through a tumultuous time. Many people are questioning the very foundations upon which this country has been built. One of the foundations that people are often forgetting is that this country was built on biblical principles, on justice and righteousness, and also upon charity. So much so that our founders had engraved on top of the rotunda of our Capitol in Washington the words of the prophet Micah. Remember, man, do what is right, love justice, and walk humbly with your God.
Well, you may know, Father, that there's a lot of confusion and sometimes exaggeration about the whole thing. And some of these deliverance ministries are performed by very good people, faithful people, sometimes very well-meaning Protestant ministers, etc. And I think that they can achieve some results. So I'm not criticizing that. But some of them are a little subject to misconceptions. Interestingly, the church, exorcism is a sacramental, not a sacrament, it's a sacramental. And
the sacramental is not a sacrament. Sacramental is meant to help us get back in touch with the sanctifying grace given to us in a sacrament. So, for instance, a crucifix, rosary beads, Bible, they are sacramentals. They put us back in touch with those original graces given to us at baptism.
The Catholic Church, including Pope Benedict, who wrote a letter to the bishops of the world, felt it was very unwise for anybody other than a authorized exorcist to truly command spirit. And that's really what we mean by an exorcism. During an exorcism, the priest exorcist is commanding the spirits to leave, is in dialogue with the spirits, and using commands and the spirit's name. That's in the Catholic tradition, and a lot of Protestant traditions do not agree with that. But in the Catholic tradition, the church feels that one should be careful, that one can open oneself up to harm oneself if one doesn't follow the authorized practices of the church. So anybody can pray, I mean, especially a priest, but anybody can pray for our Lord to deliver demons. But it's regarded as unwise practice for people to act like they can dialogue with the demon or let alone command the demon. Yeah, I mean, nobody should be discouraged about praying for other people and praying that our Lord protect or even deliver somebody. But you need some training in this area. You need put it this way, it's best to have the authority of the church behind you. After all, it's not the priest who delivers the person, it's our Lord. And but the priest is delegated to command the spirits in the name of our Lord. The particular example you're talking about was a woman who had been brought up Protestant. She was involved with a local group of sort of pathetic Satanists who, quote, assigned her a spirit. Again, whether you want to call that a curse or not, she was a little bit involved with these people. They assigned her a demon. Well, long story short is she became possessed. So she went to a deacon in her church who had no experience in this area. It was in over his head. They had nobody holding her down. When he started to say the prayers, which he probably defined as deliverance rather than exorcism, the demon manifested itself, pounced, and this 90-pound soaking wet woman threw the guy who was about 200 pounds, threw him clear across the church hall.
He got thrown across the room.
Yeah, and he was hurt. He didn't have to be hospitalized or anything, but he learned a lesson the hard way.
Wow.
And she eventually converted to Catholicism and had a Catholic exorcisms. So there's nothing anti-scientific about this. It's an historical subject, which is a type of knowledge too. And the evidence over the centuries, even though in an individual case, you always have to be careful, you have to make sure you get a good evaluation. The evidence over the centuries is actually quite massive in different cultures. Different cultures have interpreted it differently, as I said, sometimes as being possessed by gods or by dead souls or something. And the Jewish faith in the last millennium, since many Jews are now skeptical of this whole subject. But on a popular level, a lot of them believe in possession by Dybbuk, which they interpret as dead souls, even though we Catholics tend to believe that that's spirits pretending they're dead souls. History has a tremendous amount of examples of these sort of things, and that's as scientific as any kind of modern.
You laid out beautifully in your book. Do you think that in some cases that the abortion industry has been infiltrated and people that have abortions may very well be the subject of the evil one involved in that nefarious deed?
Well, I would put it this way, Father, and I think, I'm very pro-life, as you are, and I do think it's a grave evil. So when people are engaged in evil behavior, and sometimes, we're not God, we don't judge them. Sometimes they do it perhaps without fully realizing the evil that they're involved in. Yes, they're sort of opening themselves up to evil. And I'm sure that evil spirits encourage that sort of thing. So theologians often debate and there's no one right answer. How much of evil comes from our fallen nature, our corrupted human will, or our at least wounded human will, and how much comes from the suggestion of the devil? I don't have the answer to that question, although I do know that there's something so evil about the abortion industry that undoubtedly there's been some demonic influence.
It has to be the distortions and deceptions of the evil one. Just, to me, so obvious at what takes place in places like Planned Parenthood. And I think, unfortunately, even amongst our politicians these days who are really carrying out programs that are anti-God and let the devil get right into the lives of the people of our own country by promoting abortion and by saying it's a woman's right. Only God has the right over life and death. I want to recommend to you once again, ladies and gentlemen, this outstanding book. It's called Demonic Foes by Dr. Richard Gallagher. And I encourage you to read this book and perhaps even have a discussion group in your church regarding what Dr. Gallagher has to say. Doctor, it has been an honor and a pleasure and a most educational experience to have you with us on the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, I'm for action, and I hope you are too. God bless you. We would like to thank our generous sponsors for their wonderful support. Thanks for watching. Please join us next time for Action for Life. I'm for action, and I hope you are too. I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which talks about the gospel of Jesus Christ, the big G, and the little g, all the good things that people are doing to put the gospel of life into action. So please join us for the next episode of Action for Life.